Okay, let's get the my view of the channel sorted out. Okay. First things first, we have to get the airplane up and running, don't we? I've already put the fuel in, so we lift this, we put the generator on main, battery on the source, ignition to auto. Got this weird bug going on in the aeroplane which we'll ignore. Fuel selector on auto, boost pump on auto, and we should be good to start the engines. So, or engine I should say. So we're watching the NG come round. Should be good to advance the fuel condition lever. Can't actually see if I've got that programmed. No, I haven't. There we go. And when this gets to 50%, which it has done, we can advance that all the way forwards. I'm not hearing much in my headset. I'm going to turn my headset on. So now the engine's running. We can go and turn the starter off. Let's just check the volume levels for you. Yeah, it's really quiet for you as well, isn't it? Open volume mixer. What's going on? Flight sim's on 100%. Something's wrong here. Something very wrong going on with the sound levels on the computer today. Yeah, you can hardly hear the aeroplane. I don't normally have to boost it, but it's almost like the OBS has had a problem. Anyway, I'm going to leave it as it is. Well, no, there's a sound problem going on with the simulator itself, because even with this on maximum volume, it's nowhere near us. It should be up, you know, -10, -5, and it's not. Something odd going on. Normally I only need my own speakers on like 5%. It's very odd. Unless there's some setting in here that's been altered to do with the sound levels inside. No, they're all on 100, look. Who knows? It's one of those things where a reboot will probably fix it, but I'm not going to go and reboot it right now. I'm going to turn it down for myself a little bit. Anyway, yeah, I've already checked, just looking at the live stream comments, I've already checked the mixing of the game itself. It's on 100%. Very odd. I guess for the point of view of the stream, I can boost it. So we can go into OBS and overdrive the desktop audio signal. So we can push this up. So I don't know if it'll do it live. So we put this up to 5, for example. And close out of here. It's louder. Anyway, so engine's running. And we need to go and put the pitot on. We need to go and put the air conditioning on. Put the bleed on auto. Oh, sorry, I didn't. I've done the inertial separator and only one of the pitots down there. So we didn't do the lights properly, did we? We should have had the beacon on before we start the engine, but we'll put the strobe nav on. Now we've got the engines running, we can start up the gyros, put the taxi light on, and we should have a route already programmed, and we have, which is good. Okay, weather radar's already on. Damage on the engine is showing 97%. That's since I first installed it, I've never repaired it. So put the autopilot master power switch on, and we're pretty much there. Turn on the EFIS display, get rid of the cautions, let it do its self-test. Autopilot is still doing its test, so we'll just sit here for a moment, wait for everything to warm up and boot up. Just waiting for the autopilot, give it a few moments. There we go. Right, so let's go and have a look at the map, show you where we are. We're right down on the southwest of Haiti, Jeremie Airport, and there's wind is coming in 13 knots from 41 degrees, so it's coming across the airfield. So we'll backtrack down to runway 11 and then take off. The wind's gusting a little bit, so we need to turn around basically. So come off the parking brake, we'll go left turn because there seems to be more room. Let's just have a look around us. We're going to mow down the AI person there. We'll scoot around the edge of the RV14 that's parked up here. It's a shame about the physics, isn't it? Quite how that windsock would be full of air with that line of trees right next to it is anyone's guess. What's that coming out of the trees over there? Is it a phantom car? Some houses in the trees, look. Very cool. Or maybe the car I saw was on this piece of road here that just skirts among the trees. Okay. Just hold it for a moment, go and put the landing lights on. Navs and strobes are on, everything's good, starters off, ignition is on auto. Inertial separator can come off as soon as we're off the ground. The weather radar is on. We're using the GTN 750 today for a bit of a change. It's the PMS GTN 750, it's not the TDS. I don't like the TDS, although it's more accurate because it's the real thing essentially. It only covers the US. So, okay. Open the engine. Full throttle. Crosswind is being a so-and-so. So get quite fast, rotate. Look at it seesawing into the wind. So gear up. Keep it over 100 knots. And start a left turn, and we'll have a look back out over the wing. So there's Jeremie airfield that we've just taken off from. Oh, Sim's just stalled for some reason. It should release in a moment. That was a USB issue, wasn't it? The levers changed. I'll be so glad when the new version of the sim appears next year. I have been toying with the idea of maybe having a look at X-Plane in the interim, because I haven't really... I used to use X-Plane a lot years ago with X-Plane 11, but I haven't really come back to it since. So inertial separator can come off. Can we reach to it? Yeah, we can reach to it down there. Put the message on. Yeah, it's just giving us navigation instructions. Come back. So I've got this aircraft facing at the moment, which is quite interesting. So come back on the throttle and the RPM. So, just coming up to 3,000 feet, so well, that's probably good enough for cruising, isn't it? Why have we got another message? What's it trying to tell us now? It's going to hassle us all day long with messages, isn't it? Center the heading bug up on the direction we're going. We'll put the autopilot on, whoops, and go to heading mode. This altitude hold is happening, but it's coming down to 3,000. It's captured it, that's fine. Okay, so we can have a look around. So you can see here's our basic course, our scenic departure. So we're passing Jeremie, that's the actual town, and we can see down here. So there's the, if you look at the shape of the islands here, we've got Haiti is kind of a backwards C shape, isn't it? So we're wanting to go 147 degrees, but it's on the map. If we use GPS mode today for a bit of a change, we can just use heading to get us back on a intercept course with the track that we want to be going. And then we'll go nav mode in a moment. have a look out at some of the scenery. It's pretty spectacular around here, isn't it? So maybe we won't go autopiloting it, maybe we'll hand fly for a while. Just have to ignore the messages. So let's straighten our view up. Because this thing's capable of doing 250, 300 knots, so you know, in a descent it's not going to be a major issue. So let's hand fly and just keep an eye on the map. So 22 miles to run. Yeah, I think the stutters, it's more common that you see them when you're approaching airfields, when it's spawning in the other aircraft. And it's because I've got lots and lots of different aircraft, I think. And if it's loading in, you know, bespoke assets at the airfield. Who knows what causes it? It's probably to do with single threading. But we're all guessing because none of us can see the source code. I'm not sure about the career modes. I very much doubt I'm going to bother using them in 2024. To me, a simulator is just a simulator. Anything it does beyond that is, yeah, it's fun for 10 minutes, but then you get bored of it pretty quickly. It's a bit like when they added the air races to Flight Sim. It's quite divisive, I think. But it's fun for 5 minutes and then you never use it ever again. Getting more messages popping up telling us we're going the wrong way. It's very pretty out there, isn't it? A tiny little hut on that hill, right on the ridge of the hill there. Very cool. Follow this river along the valley. So the head tracking we're using today is the Toby head tracker. I think it's the Mark 5, I think they market it as. Do I play the sim in VR? No, I haven't got a VR headset. And to be honest, I wouldn't be able to put it on YouTube anyway if I did. Because there's no way of broadcasting stereoscopic vision anyway. So, yeah. I think, to be honest, VR headsets are essentially about less than 1% of the market for video games. So the audience for a VR experience, even if you could make one and broadcast it via YouTube, would be absolutely minuscule. It's very much a personal experience that isn't broadcastable, essentially, which is a shame. Because if you think about it, to broadcast a virtual reality experience, you'd have to actually record the sphere and let the person... Well, you couldn't record it because your head position, you'd only have to be able to give them the position to move around from the position the camera was in if it was recording in 360 degrees. Either that, yeah, it wouldn't make sense, would it? Or just play back what the eyes were seeing, which would then throw your ears out because they'd be moving your head around without you moving your head. It would be very odd. Yeah, I'm just reading the comments there about the Reno Air Race mod. I used it once. I had to go at one race and never used it again. I did go and buy the aeroplanes though, so I could do some videos with them, but then I never finished doing that. I think I did a video with the Texan, never got around to doing the Mustang or the any of the little jets. Yeah, you could possibly do VR multiplayer, but you could kind of do that already. There's various options, like the there's an add-on, isn't there? A free add-on that you can have people work as pilot and co-pilot. Your Control, I think it's called. Must be getting close to the airport. Yeah, it's over there on the coast somewhere, so let's start slowing down. Let's have a look at the map, at the big map, see how we're doing. So we're coming down to this airfield. Let's circle and have a look and see what the wind's doing. See if there's a windsock, because that would be really useful if we could see a windsock. Before we rely on looking at a little nav map and cheating, let's do this the traditional way. Let's see if we can find out. I don't think it's even got ATIS, has it? Have they got a windsock down there? Is it just not rendering it because we're a bit too far away? I think we're just a bit too far away at the moment. We can always circle the airfield though. Okay, we're going to cheat. There's 2 knots of wind, so we can come in this way. Let's loop around this way. So we're too fast at the moment. So let's reduce the RPM on the propeller. The engine doesn't spool up tremendously quickly in this aeroplane, so anything under 180 knots we can drop the gear. So we're going to do that, which will give us some extra drag. Having said that, look, we're still accelerating. This plane is so slippery. I'm trying to get within flaps range on the indicated airspeed over there. Let's lift the nose to make it happen. We could always side slip it up into the turn, put some opposite aileron in, and yeah, look at the speed falling off. So flaps are down. We're way high. This will be interesting actually though, so let's try this. I think this plane's probably too slippery. So if we were to yeah, look at it, trying to roll. Whoa! That was interesting. I just tried to push it up out of the approach. Yeah, we're going to go round. Let's do this neatly instead of doing barnstorming antics. At least we've got the airplane configured now.
500.
That's better. Touch and go. Right, on up the coast. Looks like we have some company. Beautiful part of the world, isn't it? Okay, so our next destination, oh, we're going the opposite way. That serves me right for not looking at the map properly, doesn't it? So we're going to go cross country here to go back the way we should have been going. Let's zoom out, then I wouldn't have made that mistake. So yeah, there's a slight detour there. It's not going to make much difference in the grand scheme of things because it's quite a interesting area of the world to fly around anyway, so we're going to follow along this valley basically. But we're going to go this side of the ridge. So if we just zoom out a bit further. go and drop down into this field. See what these... Are they houses? I think they might be. I think the flight system's having quite a few problems with our flying today. Yeah, they are houses. Interesting. Okay, so we've got quite a long way to go over to Jacmel. So what we might do is put the autopilot on for a while and take us up to a sensible altitude, hey? So let's go up to 5,000 feet. Put the autopilot on. Arm it at 1,000 feet a minute and go nav mode, which will join us onto the navigation track. We're in GPS mode, so it's going to gently turn left to join the track. We're climbing at 1,000 feet a minute until we get to 5,000 at the moment. So at the present we're at 1,500 feet. So, given that this is a fairly long leg, I'm tempted. Oops. I'm tempted to take us up a bit higher than that, but I think we're fine. So, 180 knots. We can have a look outside. So Jason is saying he wished he'd seen the startup of this one. Well, I can always shut the airplane down and start it up again. At the next airfield, maybe. It's not difficult. The general thing is overhead you've got this the crash bar, I think they call it. So you put the source on battery, you put the generator on main, you put ignition on auto. On the fuel panel you put fuel selector on auto, so it'll pull from the tanks automatically. Put the auxiliary boost pump on auto, and then you hit the starter. So you put starter on, the engine will spin up. Oh, before you do any of that, you make sure that the blue lever is forwards, that's the propeller RPM, and the red lever is on cutoff. So while it's spooling up on the starter motor, the NG meter, when it gets to 15%, you move the red lever to the low idle position, and then the needle will continue round towards 50%. When it gets there, you can move this to high idle on the red lever, and then once it goes past low idle, you can turn the starter off. The engine's actually running at that point. After that, you go and turn the bleed air to auto. You put the air conditioning on. You will also then be able to go and put the gyro switches on. before starting the engine you should really have the nav light on at least. Down here you'll want the pitot heats, but once you've got the engine running, to be honest, you can go by this panel here that will tell you what you haven't done, basically. So you just got the pitot heats to deal with. You do need to keep an eye on the outside air temperature. Obviously we're flying somewhere nice and warm today, so it's not an issue, but if you were somewhere cold, you would need to think about looking at the anti-ice system around the aircraft. But we don't have to do that. Obviously you can program your route. The really fascinating thing in this airplane, I did a video about it, is this thing. This has a special mode where you can use it in RNAV mode. So let's have a look at it. Have we got a we've got a free a VOR station over here. So if we go show information for the VOR at Port-au-Prince, it's got a really good range on it as well, 115.3 degrees. So if we set this to 115.30, if we now to do this nicely, yeah, that's fine. So we'll put this in RNAV mode, because at the moment the aeroplane is using GPS. Yeah, the CDI mode is GPS. So we can put this in RNAV mode and it's completely separate than the rest of the guidance systems. So we put 115.3. What we can do is go between frequency, radial and distance when it's in RNAV mode, and we can make up another VOR station that doesn't exist. So say we were wanting to fly to this little airfield here that doesn't have VOR. If we measure this on the map, so measure distance to here, we can invent a VOR here. So it's at 260 degrees and 50 nautical miles away from Port-au-Prince. Yeah? So we can go radial, what did we say, 260. And then we can say the distance was 50 nautical miles. So it's going to be a big number. So what that means, let's just put ourselves on heading mode so we can do this without causing any trouble. So we'll have to straighten our heading as well. So okay, the aeroplane's just flying blindly along on heading now, so we can play with this. We can now switch this over to RNAV, and this now works as a pretend VOR. So that course deviation indicator and distance here is telling us where this airfield is, even though it doesn't have a radio beacon. So what we've done is, based on this one using RNAV, we've said give us a virtual VOR at this radial and distance. So then this instrument here is pointing at that pretend VOR. It's brilliant for, you know, for all sorts of reasons. So you could essentially do a what's called a precision approach. So if we had zero visibility today, we could fly into this airfield at the right angle. So we could put our course, say for example, at 107 degrees. Let's do it. So if we go 107, oops, so that's the heading I'm moving here. So that's 90, 100, 105, 107. So that's the direction of the runway. We're off to the right, yeah? So if we were to go and... we'll do this just for a bit of fun. So we'll turn left. We won't look up. You can see where the airfield is here, look. But we're just going to go by this instrument. So we are now intercepting the course in. It's only 5 miles away, so we're pretty close to it. So let's do this more extremely than we normally would. Normally you'd only intercept at a 30 to 40 degree angle maximum to a beam. We are incredibly close to it. Here we go, here comes the beam. So we've just about got enough time to do this. So we're now pulling the heading back round. We're almost on top of the airfield. So if I look outside now, where is it? Have I got my radial wrong? Maybe it's in the undergrowth and we can't see it. Oh no, we were further out than I thought. We had a couple of miles still to run, didn't we? It's down there, look. So we are in line with the runway. Yeah, so we're flying right over the top of it, just using instruments. So we could have got within half a mile easily, if we'd done it accurately, without being able to see the strip, even though it has no radio beacon of its own. And we're going exactly the right direction, that we're just a little bit offset to one side. But that's because we're saying we're off to the left slightly. There we go. So that's what RNAV does. It's quite cool, isn't it? Obviously we can flick this back on the HSI to VOR1, or we want GPS, don't we? So GPS, you don't get to control course with GPS, it just reflects the leg you're on. So we're off to the left of the course, so if we went to nav mode back up here again, the aeroplane will crab across to the right all on its own back onto the course. But I love that this has this RNAV radio that's really great fun, because you can give yourself precision approaches into airfields that don't have radio beacons if there's a VOR nearby. Obviously you would need to figure out the distance you are away from the airfield and the altitude and do it on paper that way, because you're not going to get a glide slope, you're only going to get a localizer, or a pretend localizer. So you can see the CDI is sweeping in as we get closer to the GPS course, and the airplane will turn left. There it goes. So we have got 30 miles to run until we get to the next airfield. So we're just coming back onto our course. Let's go and remove that distance measurement off the map. There we go. So I'm going to go and grab a quick coffee while we are en route, and I'll be back in a few minutes. Cartels can use that. So I'll leave this on a nice pretty view of the world going by while I go and make a coffee. I'll be back in a few minutes. I think what I might do is just check on little nav map. Does this area of the world? Yes, it does have the elevation plot. So make sure we're not going to hit a hill on the way. So we are at 5,000 feet, aren't we? So we'll just render that in so we can see where the line is. So yeah, we'll be fine. Okay. I'll come back in a few minutes. Right, so I'm back, and I have coffee. Let's find out where we are. Let's have a look at the engine as well. So torque is good, propeller is good, NG is good, inter-turbine temperature is good, oil pressure is good, temperatures are good. Yeah, it's all looking good. Hurrah! We haven't put the transponder on there, but then we're not talking to ATC anyway. We're not being tracked by anybody. Oh, I didn't notice this had a radio altitude. Interesting. So if we get close enough to the ground somewhere, we should see that burst into life. I wonder if we can use nav2 independently on the HSI. That'd be interesting, wouldn't it? So if we go and tune in Port-au-Prince 115.30 on nav2, now we'd have to do that over here, wouldn't we? Will this only let me tune nav1? Yeah, now nav2 would be this instrument, I'm guessing. So we just saw the radio altitude, by the way, 115.30. So 115. Yes, it's just come to life. Awesome. So we could, but relative to us, interesting though, it's wavering around. This is simulating it being almost out of range, by the look of it. Interesting. Okay, do we get a distance measuring equipment for that? Or we would have to do that elsewhere, I guess. So we'd have to use this to do it, which has got it built in, obviously. So if we went and put this back into VOR mode, we can tune in exactly the same way and put in 115.3. So we go on the frequency, it's already on 11530. So we can see the distance. And then obviously you can use this with the course to get the CDI, the angle offset to the beacon. We're going to get some amazing scenery coming up in a moment. Just out of interest, I'd love to watch the radio altitude kicking in when we get closer to the hills and ridges, because we are going to be heading off across there. Just not just yet. We're going to do a touch and go down on the coast down here. It's just in this little hollow by the look of it. Let's have a look at it on the map. Actually, no, it's sooner than that, I think. It's down here. Yeah, there's the airfield there. So which way's the wind? So we need to come in from the ocean side. So let's go and put ourselves in the cockpit. Disengage the autopilot. And start descending. And decelerating. We've got another message from the GPS. We're going to ignore it. It's just telling us we're going wildly off track. But we're doing that on purpose. Let's go and have a look. There's the airfield down there. So if we fly out towards the edge of this headland and then come back in, we should be in a good place. So we're dropping height. We've dropped about 500 feet so far. The sun bouncing off the water. Can't quite see around that corner to see what... Is that the moon? Yeah, it's the moon that's reflected in the sea. Okay, let's turn back down to 3,800 feet. See, what we can do is going opposite rudder, so we can lose a load of speed as we make the turn, and lose some height once we got rid of the speed. There we go, just trying to get the balance right. It's a bit of practice makes perfect in an aeroplane you don't know very well. There's the runway. Speed is falling off, and at which point we can get the gear down. Can't use the flaps just yet. So what we'll do, it's like a buckaroo, isn't it? Get the nose up, lose some airspeed. Go for some flaps. Yeah, we're too high, we're going to have to circle. This aeroplane is so fast. It's a gorgeous coastline around here, isn't it? Okay, we're on a good approach speed now. Hopefully we're a bit lower. Still a bit high. But we're managing the speed better now. So we're obviously not as steep a descent as we were. We're not having to play silly games with side slipping. A bit floaty, isn't it? Look at it kicking. There's a sudden wind coming in from the left side. Okay, so flaps back to take off, and we're airborne again already, just off the ground. Flaps up. Let's keep the nose at about the 10 or 12 degree mark. Because it doesn't help that this is an uphill climb out to avoid this hill. So we'll just keep it straight for the moment. And then we go for the next part of the route, which is over the even steeper part of the hill. It's fine, this airplane's capable of doing it. We can pull back the throttle and lower the nose, get to 1,000 feet a minute, that'll be fine. And you can see it's accelerating nicely now. Okay, so 20 miles to run. So we're going to re-engage autopilot. Put ourselves on that nice intercept course. We could just go back to nav mode, couldn't we? And if we go and tell this to go back to 5,000 feet and to climb at 1,000 feet a minute, not 1,800, and arm it, it should take over. There we go. Good to go again. So I can have a sip of my coffee now. What is the preferred UK coffee? There isn't one. I tend to drink any old instant rubbish, but you get some proper coffee snobs around. Just need to keep an eye on that hill in front of us. We have got plenty of speed. Let's go for a higher climb rate, and maybe go for higher altitude as well, actually, just to keep ourselves clear of the hill. No, you get some proper coffee snobs around. I will drink anything. If I go out, I'll have a nice cappuccino or sometimes espresso. I think espresso is a bit of a rip-off for what it is. I sometimes get it at home, like instant espresso, but I'm sure the what would you call a coffee aficionado? I'm sure they would roll their eyes. But yeah, at home we have, my other half drinks tea. She doesn't go anywhere near coffee. She hates it. And she just drinks normally just whatever tea bags we've got in. Sometimes Yorkshire tea, depends whatever's on offer. PG Tips. We buy it in great big sacks of 2,000 tea bags at a go. So, zoom out, and there we go. So yeah, someone's made a really good comment there, Abigail, saying about brakes and then gear up. Anybody that's not aware of that, it's something you just get into the habit of doing. I kind of find myself unconsciously doing it because I did it as part of the flight. Can you remember I did some flight training videos a while back, doing like basic airmanship things? If you're in an aircraft with retractable gear, you touch the wheel brakes after you leave the ground, but just, you know, shortly before you retract the undercarriage to stop the wheels spinning. It's fascinating in a way, isn't it, that that's not part of the retraction mechanism. You'd think it would be quite a simple thing to implement. Although that would mean powered brakes, and that's extra weight, I guess, to have, you know, electric calipers to do that. And it's more things to go wrong, I guess. You could imagine it on the big planes, because they've got all manner of systems, haven't they? It would be interesting to find out, actually. I bet the big Boeings and the Airbuses do it automatically on the retraction. Okay, so this big area we're about to fly over the top of is Port-au-Prince. So we are going to descend straight back down again, having got to 6,000 feet. So let's bring this down using the autopilot for a change, so we'll arm that. Let's come down at 2,500 feet a minute and cut the throttle and the propeller RPM appropriately. We're not actually going to stop here because this is an international airport, we're just going to have a look at it. But it's a fascinating part of the world. Look at how developed this is here. That's a lot of houses. It's a lot of stuff for the simulator to be throwing around as well, isn't it? It's doing very well with it. So this is the international airport we're just approaching. We'll come off the autopilot. I'm just centering the head tracking up before we do that. Yeah, it's loading assets in, look. We're about 2 miles out. It's loading assets in on the ground, which made the simulator stutter like crazy. So rather than fly directly over the airport, we'll go around the edge of it. Avoid the traffic. What's the other side of this city look like? It's huge, isn't it? It stretches out right away up the hillside. It's not very developed though, is it? It's all small buildings. So we're turning right anyway. Climbing at 1500 feet a minute up to 7,500 to get over these hills, the ones that are directly in front of us. And we're converging on the track. When we get a bit closer to it, so within a dot, we'll go over to nav mode, and then hopefully it won't twist us around too much. Can you fly by Sousa Beach or Sosua Beach? Where is Sosua Beach? If it's not directly on my route, good luck with that. So someone said, is this the 172? No, this is the TBM 850 from Black Square. It's a lovely looking thing, isn't it? So we got 44 miles to run. We've got another message come up, which is going to be down here. Look on the, yeah, it's just telling us what direction to go. So if we put this on nav mode, it will stop flashing messages at us. So it's just bringing itself in onto the track, and then it will steer the other way. It's a view and a half, isn't it? Very cool. So let's have a look at this Sosua Beach to see what they were talking about. So if we go to maps.google, and put in Toussaint Beach, Dominican Republic. So that's right on the far side of the island from where we are. Several hundred miles away, or kilometers away. So at the moment we are down here. So Toussaint Beach is right over here somewhere. So someone said, can I go over the spec of my rig? I never use those terms, it always makes me laugh. I do apologise for laughing. I have a... I don't know is the answer. Let's have a look. If I run, I think I've got Specky installed. While the sim's running, let's go and pop it open. This will tell you everything you need to know. It's an Intl Core i7 at 3.6 GHz using Skylake. 16 gig of RAM. This always gives out the wrong numbers because it's got far more than 2000 meg on the. It's an RTX 3080, but I think it's got. If we go Task Manager, that gives us the GPU. GPU memory usage. It's got 8 gig there, dedicated, there we go, 10 gig of RAM on the GPU and 16 gig on the motherboard. It's running on an SSD. It's not running on an NVMe drive. The system drive is an NVMe drive, but Flight Sim is on a second drive, which is only a normal SSD drive. So it's a GeForce RTX 3080 graphics card, and it's humming along at 70 centigrade. It's got liquid cooling, the computer. So yeah, there you go. More interestingly, and perhaps more pertinent to what you're seeing out the window, is I've got fibre to the house internet as well, which I'm not sure what the exact speed is at the moment. It very much depends on how strong the Wi-Fi signal is on a given day, which depends on lots of other factors. But we could do a speed test if we wanted to, so let's just try that. Internet speed test. I've not done this for a very long time, except remember we're using Flight Sim at the same time, so that's going to... Yeah, it's not going very fast at the moment. That's only 100 megasecond. On a good day, that will be 500. But that's down to the Wi-Fi. If I do a test of the router itself, it'll be 500 up and down. So that's just, yeah, 200 down by the look of it. Sorry, 200 up, I should say. But that's down to the Wi-Fi today. But there's a lot of stuff in between this computer and the router, and it's on Wi-Fi. But it's plenty fast enough to be loading scenery. If I wanted to get 500, I'd have to plug a wire in, I guess. You know, to get it reliably. But I don't really want to be running wires around the house. Are we still climbing? We are at 13,000. Oh, we didn't arm the altitude. Whoops. So somebody was on about ceiling earlier. Let's put altitude hold on, shall we, for a while? So we get some beautiful views from up here, though. Look at that. I think this aircraft can quite happily go up to like 25,000 feet. Or even higher. Maybe I'll have a screenshot of that, hey? Do I have multiplayer on? Yes, I do. But if people start buzzing me, I will switch it off. I had somebody absolutely destroy a live stream the other week. Or not destroy it, but they made a bit of an idiot of themselves trying to stay in shot all the time, rather than flying along in any sort of sensible manner. Scenery around here is incredible, isn't it? So how far away are we? So we got 27 miles to lose 10,000 feet. Let's have a look, see what we can do. We'll come back down to 5,000. And it's armed it this time. I didn't notice it hadn't armed it last time. Let's come back down at 2,000 feet a minute. We'll be back down in no time. Just decrease speed, or decrease power I should say. We're holding about 200 knots in the descent. Cool. And the speed and the altitude is falling off. So on the HSI then, we do get distance measuring in there as well, but that's obviously on GPS. So that's just doing the trigonometry on the position. We get ground speed. You can configure, I don't know if you've ever seen this, the GTN 750, you can configure it. If you go to the menu button and go to change fields, you can change the orientation of the map as well. So if you did want north up, you can do that. But you can change the fields around the edge, so you just click on the field you want to change and you can replace it with something else. So at the moment I've got estimated time en route, distance and ground speed showing, but you can swap them out for whatever you want. Notice we're not north facing anymore, so we've actually got the so we're not track facing anymore, we're north facing on the map, which can be helpful if you're trying to figure out where you are. Am I using Little Nav Map? Yes, I am. We could run Navigraph as well if you prefer to see Navigraph. I tend to use it for the big jets, but not so much for VFR. I know they've put the new VFR, well, it's not new anymore, but they've got a VFR map which is a bit like a US sectional design. That's obviously not the flight plan we're doing, so we'll do a new flight plan. And we will go in here and we'll copy the route, and it won't understand it in Navigraph because it doesn't understand multiple air, runways on the same route. So if we do that, for example, he says, and it does. Obviously, it's not doing a landing each one, so yeah. So it did get it. So Navigraph is nice. So you can obviously play games with saying, yeah, this is where it falls down in a way. We have to go and do lots of clicks to get information, whereas Little Nav Map has just hovering over an airfield gives you everything. So you've got the METAR there, you've got the elevation. It's good, isn't it? Whereas you have to do a lot more digging around in Navigraph to get the same information. But it does give you different information on the towns. It's useful. It looks much more like a US sectional map though. Especially the representation of the aids and stuff around the map. Little Nav Map, I'm using a hack for it that gives you Google Terrain View. Out of the box with Little Nav Map you get OpenStreetMap and OpenTopoMap, which obviously OpenStreetMap doesn't give you the terrain. OpenTopoMap does, but it's really slow. Look, it takes ages to render in, which is why I tend to use this unofficial add-on for Google Maps Terrain View, which is quite snappy and fast. Okay, we're just coming down to through 5,000 feet. We're losing light. We can see the runway out ahead of us across the bay here. So I might go and influence daylight in a moment and go and lift the sun back into the sky in Truman Show style. Yeah, we're going to get a sunset in a moment. So if we look out of this side of the airplane, we'll see the sun go down. Can we see that from the rear windows? It's very cool, isn't it? I love the way that Flight Sim puts the patterning on the water. Obviously it's simulating currents and winds, but it's very good the way it does it. At 5,000 feet then. And we're almost across the bay, so let's go and turn off the autopilot. And figure out what we're going to do in terms of an approach. So there's the airfield. Some speed. Which way's the wind? 3 knots, so it's not even worth worrying about. So what we could do is just fly a left pattern around the runway and come in the other end, which should give us some time to descend. I know I'm too high, that's why I'm not coming in directly on this end. So we're going to go along past the runway, keep doing left turns, that's why I said left pattern. So we'll get to the right altitude before we make the turn. And here comes the nav system saying we're not on course anymore. So we've only got 3 knots of wind, so we can land any direction we want really. Can you upload this flight plan to the navigation system of the aircraft? Yes, I did. I took it in from the flight sim menu. So the PMS GTN 750 understands doing that. So I loaded the flight plan in, so I didn't have to key it in myself this time. Normally I key them in because I find that kind of good fun. I'm a bit bizarre like that. I'm a software developer, so it probably comes with the territory. I'm going to be turning left in a minute and doubling back on myself to come in for an approach on the opposite end of the runway. So I will be coming in this way. I'm just going to fly out past where the is it a quarry down here? Where these earthworks are, and then double back. So we have the landing lights on. We'll put the taxi light on as well, see if it makes any difference on the runway. Now it's getting a bit dark outside. Nav and strobe lights are on. Okay. Let's scoot forwards a little bit. Can we see around this corner to see the runway? Yeah, the runway's just there, look. So we can ideally get it kind of 3/4 behind us and then turn in, but we can do a tighter approach, we're quite low. Do some lights on, but I don't want to go and fiddle with that while I'm on approach. It's suddenly got dark, hasn't it? Now the sun's gone down. Some tall trees at the beginning of the runway, which is always fun. Of course, now we're sheltered from the wind. And we're down. So we'll just get off the runway and then I'll get some lights on in the cabin. But I may rewind the time actually. Okay, we're back in the air again. So dab the brakes and undercarriage up. It's beautiful colours, isn't it? Simulator's very good at this sort of time of day. So the lights are... Now I want to get the airplane stable before I go digging around in the cockpit. It's quite dark in here now, isn't it? Let me get it stable. If I put this on heading mode and put the autopilot on, yaw damper on, heading mode. Whoa, look at that, look how slow it is to respond. Nav mode has obviously tried to go and turn immediately for the next leg. So I can obviously stop this corkscrewing around by centering the heading up. And if we went and put this on 5,000 feet and or thereabouts and get there at 1,000 feet a minute, so we'll let the autopilot get on with that. We'll pull the throttles back now. Flaps can come up, we're going plenty fast enough, so let's get the lights sorted out. So they're down here. I just couldn't see them in the dark and didn't want to crouch down without having the airplane stabilised. Obviously that's telling me we're not going in the right direction, so we can now just spin ourselves round with the heading bug. To the direction we want to be going, and then we'll switch to nav mode when we're fairly close to the track. And we weren't going to 5,000 feet, were we? Because I missed the knob with the mouse. There we go. Ah, no, we need to rearm it. It did the same again. So is the sun already gone? Yeah, that's... Didn't hang around for long, did it? So we can go and switch back off the taxi light. Should we wind the time back? It's no fun flying in the dark, is it? We're here to see some sights. Should we switch it for early morning instead? So we get lighter on us. There we go. better. So we're closing in on the track. I keep forgetting I can just lean in to do that with head tracking. There I'm using a combination of mouse and head tracking, and it gets really confusing. So the airport we were just flying at, we just flew into was Cabo Rojo, or Rojo, I'm not sure how you pronounce it. And then we're going to overfly an international airport over here on the coast, the Maria Montez International, and then head on up to Constanza. So we are in the Dominican Republic now. We have left Haiti, we've crossed the border. So I think tonight I'll get as far as Domingo and I'll end for the night, and then perhaps later in the week I'll complete the trip. So this will be part 1. I'll have to retitle the YouTube video, won't I? So we'll go up to Constanza and land. Perhaps we'll change the route here slightly to go to a smaller airfield at Santo Domingo. Maybe Los Montones, is that? It's a fairly short runway, but this is a good aeroplane, so if we add that in, it should be good. Okay, so we're on our way off across these hills. Let's have a check actually. So if we follow nav mode now, that will keep us on the track. The advantage of doing that is we can double check on the elevation plot on little nav map. Are we going to be high enough? No, we're not, look. We will hit that hill. And this is why we check these things. So 5,000 feet is not enough. So let's go and go to 7,000, give ourselves a little bit of leeway. So when we set vertical speed, it arms it automatically. So we just climb gently, 1,000 feet a minute. Maintain airspeed, and we're good. So this is interesting, because we're going to be flying into Constanza. We may not be able, just looking at the map here, we may not be able to play that game with the VOR, with the RNAV, to offset it. A, it's a very long way away, so it's not going to be very accurate. But B, on approach into here, we may be obscured by this range of hills. So if you think about it, the VOR's over here. There's all these hills in the way of the airports down here. Oh, so that's going to this one, isn't it? So if we were going to the next one, yeah, look. So the VOR will be down here, which is, as you can see, where the marker is. By the time we get to the next airfield, we will probably be unsighted from the VOR. So even if we could do the RNAV trick, it wouldn't work. We'd lose sight of the radio beacon. I mean, it's not purely line of sight, but it helps. Oh, and the weather's coming in as well. How predictable is that? So just when we could really have done with having that working, we might be doing some low-level hand flying underneath the clouds a bit later on. So Shams says, sorry for joining late. I never know when I'm going to be flying, so don't go apologising. It's And I never expect anybody to turn up, to be honest. I'm just playing with the simulator and I'm streaming it invariably if I am playing with the simulator, so you get to come along if you so wish. It's funny, I was talking to a friend this evening. We went out with a few friends and they were saying, so what's next? What can you do next with this whole YouTube thing? And they keep on and on at me to have a go at trains. I have never... it's not that I'm not interested in them, I don't know anything about trains, and I don't think the simulators are particularly good that are available, so I'm not sure that it'd have much interest. I don't know. So Fabian is saying on the live stream, I go to Constanza a couple of times a year. My kid and wife flew from Constanza to SD via helicopter. Sadly, because of an accident my kid had. It's a beautiful valley. So I'm guessing SD is Santo Domingo, yes? So Constanza is way up here, which is where we're heading in a moment. So we're going to overfly Maria Montez International. We've got plenty of height now. Let's see how close we would have been. Yes, this is the hillside we would have slammed into if we had not gained another couple of thousand feet. So we would have been splattered across this hill down here. Interesting. Arcane is saying that Train Sim World 4 is a pretty cool game. There's so many different train sims though, and there seems to be a real history with companies going broke and the code being sold to other companies and them rebadging it, and like Dovetail were involved as well, weren't they? They were involved with Flight Sim once upon a time with FSX. Yeah, there's such a checkered history. And I'm not so sure it would have much of an audience on YouTube. I mean, doing train trips around the world, are people really going to be interested in that? I don't know. It's the same with the truck driving game, isn't it? Would anybody really want to be in the cab of a truck with me listening to music? And although you can't do that, can you? Because that gets a copyright strike. It's a shame. So yeah, I was thinking the same thing, just reading your comment, that the audience for trains is going to be much smaller than flight simulators. Something I have been promising to do, because I used to fly DCS a lot many years ago. So I have been promising to go back to DCS and do some deep dives into flying the jets properly. So not just bombing around, shooting and bombing things, but you know, doing the different case procedures with the Tomcat, the carrier and the F-18, things like that. Going up to the gunnery range at Nellis and doing proper, you know, target approach procedures with the correct dive angle and, you know, dropping iron bombs in the correct manner, not all the rest of it. And going through the ways that the professionals do it, which there's plenty of material out to crib from, but then I can write notes up, draw diagrams, give people something to go on. There seems to be a dearth of documentation for DCS. There's lots of people playing it that have learnt the hard way how to do things, but there's not much in the way of, you know, people actually turning out decent quality documentation. So that might be a good idea. Okay, so if we have a look outside and look directly below us, we should see a great big runway. Look at the length of that one. So we're heading off now across the hills, directly into the fog bank. What's the betting the weather up at Constanza is going to be horrible? Can we see it on here? If we go and show us the weather, please. It's not showing too bad. There's no icing, is there? No. Cloud cover. It's not showing anything. The weather radar. It's just misty. Yeah, you can see it's broken. We're not going to have too many problems with that, I think. Famous last words, of course. So someone's commented and said there's the airport sim. Paul B has said there's the airport sim. Yeah, I've read about that. It's I don't know. There's also the ATC, the AI-driven ATCs that are coming out. I'll probably do quite a few videos with that because I'm a lot happier broadcasting an ATC voice than I am a real controller. Because if you're on VATSIM and you're broadcasting, you're going to hear the other pilots, and they haven't actually agreed to be part of your recording. So I'm never happy. I have flown on VATSIM in the past, but I've never put it in a video. And I don't feel very, I'm a bit uneasy about doing it because you're hearing other people who haven't agreed to be in the video. But when Beyond ATC and is it Smart Sky is the other one? It'll be interesting to see how well they work. To be honest, I'm stunned that it's taken until now for either Beyond ATC or Smart Sky or a solution like them to arrive, where we can actually talk to ATC and the robot, faking a human, will talk back with a regional accent. I thought that would have been coming with Flight Simulator because Microsoft must be kicking themselves because they're doing a huge amount of work on that in the corporate world. And I think, to be honest, Flight Simulator, or certainly the infrastructure behind Flight Simulator, has been a proving ground. I wouldn't be surprised to see Flight Sim go to a subscription model for 2024, because they must be making a huge loss on it with just the data costs, storing and transmitting this quantity of data, and it's petabytes of data that they're dealing with. To so many people simultaneously must be costing a fortune. I wouldn't be surprised if it's being written off, as a proving ground for network infrastructure projects. Wouldn't be surprised at all. But yeah, the ATC is going to be good. So if you've not heard of it, Beyond ATC is going to introduce artificially intelligent air traffic controllers, so you can do the full instrument flight with voice controlled interaction with ATC. So you just talk and they understand, much as you might talk to an Amazon Echo or a Google device or Siri. You can just talk to the ATC on the radio in the aeroplane, and they come back to you. I think Beyond ATC is going to be interesting because they're going to do very much the same thing as FSLTL, which simulates air traffic according to real-world air traffic. So you'll be able to hear those aircraft on the radio, as they're flying around. So they'll be artificially calling ATC, which will be then responding back, but you'll be in the sky with them, so you'll be sharing the sky with the other traffic. Oh, the weather's just updated. So this is going to be fun. And this doesn't have a virtual view on the EFIS, does it? I don't think it does. No. So we're going to have some fun and games getting into Constanza. Hopefully it's going to be a bit clearer up ahead. We probably need to go another 1,000 foot up just to remain safe. So let's go and do that. Because in the middle of this cloud there's a sodding great hill. So we're going to need our wits about us in a few minutes' time. So just out of interest, what is the barometric pressure at Constanza? If we hover the mouse over it, we'll get the meta, won't we? 1010. So let's go and have a look. And that's what we've got anyway, so it's still the same barometric pressure. So the altitude reading is correct. How are we doing in terms of temperature? Now we're getting higher in the sky. 56 Fahrenheit. So we were interested in centigrade because 0 is obviously freezing. So 13 centigrade. It's still above freezing. We're not going to get icing, don't worry yet. Just coming up to 8,000 feet. So we're going to be fine in terms of temperature. And we've got a little bit of visibility. Good. I think if we went another 1,000 feet we'd get much better. It's clearing this side anyway, so I think by the time we get to Constanza we'll be fairly clear. It's just a bank of cloud, isn't it? So, Jamie Knight says, your streams are very calm to listen to. Thank you very much. Somebody was saying the other day, I've missed my calling, I should have been reading books on Amazon or something. I don't know. Or doing, voice work. It's just by pure chance of where I've grown up and the work I've done. And the experience I've got, I've ended up with a listenable voice. I'm sure that's very much a subjective thing though. Okay, so we're 12 miles out from Constanza. If we have a look on the map, we are going to end up coming in. There's a whole area around it we can circle as we descend. So the airfield elevation is at 4,000 feet. So we're 4,000 feet above the airfield at the moment. So we're just going to clear this ridge, and I'm guessing it's down the other side. Look at the heat map for the altitude here. We could head sort of north and then turn in, and we could actually descend that way. So you can see the gap over there, look. So we could head for that. So should we go manual and do that? So then we just need to follow the valley in, basically. I think just reading the comments about doing audiobook narration. I think anybody who has children, I've got 3 daughters, they're grown up now, they're 18, 19 and early 20s. But yeah, anyone who's had children, you spend years reading from books at the side of their bed. Or at least we did. And it does, practice makes perfect, I guess. And you learn in a slightly devious way, a calm way of telling a story that will put them to sleep. Or help them to fall asleep. Let's put it that way. The worst one is when you're reading a children's book to your kids, and you get into the book and you look up having read sort of 10, 15 pages, and they're fast asleep. And you're actually wanting to find out then what happens at the end of the story. There's the airfield, look. So where's the wind coming from? We can't see it on the GTN 750, can we? It's a 5 knot crosswind, and it favours this way a small amount, but it really wouldn't hurt to fly the pattern here. So we'll fly downwind, losing speed as we go, and then do a left turn and come straight back in. So this is Constanza. It's gorgeous scenery, isn't it? It's high altitude though, 4,000 feet. Well, not as obviously not as high as, you know, like the Rockies or Denver or anywhere like that in the US, where you get up to 8,000 or 10,000 feet. The high desert, as they call it. It's a long runway to deal with the altitude. Yeah, for a laugh a while ago, one of my friends was on about Harry Potter, and I read the first couple of pages of Harry Potter in an audio clip for them, and they said I could beg a fortune, but I said, I'm afraid I think Stephen Fry has already done that. But in deference to Stephen Fry, at least I can say Harry pocketed it, which apparently he can't. So we're below 180 knots, we'll get the gear down. We'll scoot round over the top of this hill, a double back. And get our approach ready. So let's just watch the speed fall off as we come around this corner. Flaps to the first setting. The safety systems are a real pain sometimes, aren't they? Look how long that runway is. We're almost going to need to fly halfway along it to avoid having to taxi for 2 miles. Do you know, I might call it at Constanza tonight, just because it seems like a nice place. Okay, flaps up. Is that van going to move? Or is he just parking there to be awkward? Okay, we'll double back here. Parking brake on. Oh. Should we go outside and watch the propeller spin down? Okay, so the propeller RPM can come down, and we can go and turn off the pitot heats. I'm going to turn off the head tracking to do this because it will make me a lot more assured with where I'm going around the cockpit. The ignition system can come off, the gyros can be switched off, the lights can come off. The bleed system can go off, the air conditioning can now come off, the transponder can come off. I'm not sure that this actually works with turning the radios off. Oh, it does. Interesting. But this one's going to be this knob. Yeah, of course it's the Black Square version, isn't it? Of course it works. Turn the ether system off. Turn the weather radar off. Turn the autopilot master power off. Radio master off. Fuel selector stays, although we could put it to off, I suppose. Will it not let us do that? No, it won't. Oh, that's a shame. They haven't implemented. That's the first thing I've seen they haven't implemented. Interesting. Ignition was already off, wasn't it? Yeah. Starters off. We're good everywhere, so that can come down, and that cuts the power out completely. And then we can unlock the door. Unfold, and we can go into the passenger compartment and we can unlock their door as well. Oh, we have to unlock it there as first. Pop that open, pop the stairs down. There we go. Let some fresh air through the cabin. So yeah, I think we'll continue on from here later in the week when I get a chance. But that was good fun. Hopefully you enjoyed that. and I'll be streaming again soon. If you haven't seen it, I post all of my streams and everything to a blog on the internet. So if you go to johnbeckett.online, it links to everything I do. And the blog it's at Substack. It's completely free. And everything I do, so this will go on here very soon, as soon as I've finished and stopped the stream. You can go in and view any of the videos I've done, the streams I've done, and it's all searchable. And more importantly, you can subscribe by email. So let's just simulate doing that. So if I go new incognito window in the browser and pretend I'm coming in here cold, you get this page and it asks for your email address, or if you have a read of it first, then you can subscribe and it will ask for your email address. And then every time I post a news item in here, so basically another video, you'll get an email immediately. So it's about 70-30 mix. So 70% of my videos are recorded and then uploaded, 30% are live streamed at the moment. Well, that's the way it tends to work out. So you get things like looking at the hotel mode, looking at that RNAV that we played with today on the 850. There's lots and lots and lots of videos going a long way back. So yeah, you can see that was good fun actually, attempting the impossible turn at Wickham Air Park. So this is, engine failure on takeoff and trying to get the airplane back into the airfield. We tried it with several different airplanes and in different conditions. It was good fun. Had a lot of comments back from real pilots with, tips and advice. It was very, very good. But it goes way back. Look, this goes back into the distant past of me messing around with the simulator, trying things out and doing things and trying airplanes out. So yeah, goes on and on and on. Makes me realise how many videos I've thrown out when I look in here. Because again, this only covers the recent past. Here we go. Look, this is when I was looking at the police books. So you've got things like practicing visual recovery from unusual attitudes. There's also short field takeoffs and landings. Slow flight stalls and spins. Rate 1 level turns. Crab and side slip landings. Yeah, I've done lots practicing crosswind landings. Practicing circuits in the Cessna 152, so doing them properly. Anyway, I'll leave it there. So that's the blog. So that's at johnbeckett.substack.com. But if you just go to johnbeckett.online, that lists everything I do. So there's the blog, the YouTube channel. I copy the posts on the blog onto Twitter as well, or X as it's now known. There's Ko-fi, where you can get any of the procedures I've written up for the big jets and stuff. So there's a shop in here where you can download them. You can get anything for free. You can chip in with the price of a coffee if you want to. But you tend to find I have prepared, the startup procedure, for example, for the F-28. If I show you what these look like, it might be of interest to you. So if I put in 0 in here and get now and check out, and it says I have ordered it, and I can view the content of the order and download it. And if I open that PDF, this is what the procedures tend to look like. So they will have typically the keyboard combination of where to go to look in the cockpit, which section to look, what to click, and they go through the functional requirements without any of the optional bits that that are supplementary. So all the checks that a real aircrew would do are removed. So you just get a nice, neat. Look how long the sequence of operations is to get the aircraft ready. That's the F-28. But there's loads of them. I've done it for all of the big airliners and all of the big study level jets. Anyway, I'll leave it there, and I'll see you again soon. Take care.